Joining us from Washington now is Chuck Todd, host of Meet the Press, which airs every Sunday morning at 8 o'clock. So, Chuck, let's talk about President-elect Joe Biden's rolling out of the vaccination plan. It would seem to me that if he is close, even close to being successful at 100 million vaccinations before May, that's close to a quarter of the nation's population, or a third of the nation's population, that would buy him a tremendous amount of goodwill, even with some of the 74 million people who voted for Donald Trump this past November.
You know, Conan, I thought if by June 1 vaccines are flowing and money has left Washington to go to the states and it's in people's pockets, I think that is how you buy some goodwill. They start to see government working. Absolutely. I mean, look, 2020 was a year when a lot of folks have wondered, where's the cavalry? Where's the federal government been? I have to tell you, though, but I also think there's real pressure on Joe Biden. On one hand, it's a low bar. I mean, Donald Trump, it's essentially the worst disaster response now. I mean, forget Katrina, this is now worse, right? You know, in hindsight, the federal response to this was a disaster. We're here now. We've got the vaccines. The one good thing has been the vaccine development. That has been, you know, every scientist in the world working on the same vaccine clearly benefited society. So, but Joe Biden has a burden of making government work well and work efficiently and work better than it has now. Again, he's benefiting from an extraordinarily low bar. But I also think he's not going to get a lot of leeway if he runs into a hurdle, because I think people are running out of patience, and even though that may not be fair to him, I just think that's the situation he's inheriting. Keith
Knobson is a political consultant out of Pennsylvania. He wrote an interesting piece in The Hill where he made the argument that you could get the Republican votes to convict President Trump in an impeachment trial. That fundamentally, that if Donald Trump is still available, still has the possibility of running for president in 2024, the Republican Party will be certainly held hostage by him, not including the fundraising apparatus. Do you subscribe to the fact that Mitch McConnell, in his heart of hearts, wants him out of the 2024 race?
1,000%. I think he wants him out of the 2022 midterms, and having him out in 2024 certainly weakens Trump in 2022. So, yes, I mean, look, Mitch McConnell is a pretty transactional guy, and he knows why he's not the majority leader or won't be the majority leader on January 20th. It's because of Donald Trump and certainly the role he played in those Georgia Senate races. Demographics certainly are running against the Republicans, but they should have won those races, but for Donald Trump. And they couldn't use the easiest message they had, serve a check on Joe Biden, all because Donald Trump couldn't concede the election. So I do think that's what McConnell's thinking, but I also want to give, I don't want to assume it's all transactional, Conan. You and I don't know the feeling of being lifted up. You know, Mitch McConnell had polio as a kid, so he can't walk very fast. On January 6th, Capitol Police officers basically had to scoop him up out of there in order to take him to safety. I don't think we should underestimate what kind of impact that had on his psyche as well.
I have to ask you one local question, just your gut reaction. Mike Garcia, new congressman out of the northern LA County, part of Ventura County, former Navy fighter pilot. You had said that the GOP would love to have more like him. He won his seat in that district, which went for Joe Biden by about 10,000 votes. He won the seat by 333 votes. That was the margin of victory. But then he went on to challenge the results on the floor of the House in Arizona and Pennsylvania and voted against impeachment. How wise do you think that was?
I don't get it. And I have to tell you, I'm curious what kind of conversation Kevin McCarthy had with Mike Garcia. I don't understand how the leader of the House Republicans, somebody who's certainly understands California politics pretty well, who understands that Republicans don't face direct primaries in the state of California. None of it made any sense unless he truly believes it. And if he truly believes it, that's a whole nother story. But if this were some sort of political calculation, it's the worst political calculation I could think of. So none of it makes a lot of sense. And I have to tell you, I've been obsessed with trying to figure out, did Congressman Garcia and Kevin McCarthy have a call? Look, we have heard that Kevin McCarthy was quietly advising members of Congress, well, if you want to object, here are the states you should object to. And so perhaps he got this as advice, Conan. That's another thing I'm wondering. But the whole thing is weird, and I have to tell you, it is something that I think Congressman Garcia is probably going to be haunted by for the rest of his term.
Who's on the program?
Well, we're going to be leading off local because D.C. security is the nation's security right now. So we're going to focus on inaugural security. The state capitals, we know that they're under threat this Sunday as well. So we'll be live in Lansing, Michigan, probably of all the state capitals, the one that's the most concerned about these threats. But hey, we've got to deal with COVID and this vaccine distribution, and I'm going to talk with Dr. Anthony Fauci about that as well, Conan.
Chuck Todd, host of Meet the Press. Thank you very much. Stay safe, my friend, through inauguration.